I'm Peter Harlow, and this is one of the aircraft at Silverwings responsible for marketing in Australia. Our principle is to market high quality ultralight aircraft and accessories to Australia and to New Zealand. Our primary aim is to give the best possible service, not just to customers who are thinking of buying, but also to our customers who've bought our aircraft and our products. A little bit of background to the SportStar. We were already selling and marketing the Foxbat ultralight, which you may see elsewhere on this DVD. The manufacturer for the SportStar approached a number of potential distributors in Australia, and after a process of interviewing and various other selection processes, I was very pleased to be asked to be their distributor for Australia and New Zealand. The company who manufacture the SportStar, Evector Aerotechnik, are based in the Czech Republic, which has a fantastic reputation for building high-quality light aircraft. They originally owned Blahnik gliders, which may be familiar to some people, but recently, around about 12 years ago, they sold Blahnik gliders to concentrate on the SportStar aircraft. Evector also manufacture a couple of GA aircraft, as well as a European microlight version of the SportStar. The key characteristics of the SportStar are fairly obvious really. First of all, it's a low-wing aircraft, not a high-wing. Low-wing has advantages in a number of ways. Particularly you'll hear from ag pilots that they prefer low-wing aircraft because when they turn, they can see into the turn and they can see the ground very well. The SportStar has a particularly large canopy which gives you a fantastic view out of the aircraft. It's tinted and well ventilated so you don't get burned or fried when you're flying in the aircraft. Okay, the power plant in the SportStar is the Rotax 100 horsepower liquid cooled engine. It's a pretty standard power plant in a lot of recreational aircraft now and has a reputation for reliability, which is really second to none. It's fabulous. A particular point of note on the SportStar is that it has the carburetor heat box here, so that if there is any possibility at all of carburetor icing, which is very, very unusual on Rotaxes, you've got the carby heat box here to deal with it. The propeller on this particular aircraft is an in-flight adjustable propeller. The standard propeller, which comes with the aircraft, is a three-blade ground adjustable propeller. The in-flight adjustable propeller gives you a little bit more clout when you need a bit of takeoff, and it's got a slightly better cruise speed. Sorry about the background noise we're getting here. This aircraft has flown into a farm strip and we've got the farmer doing his daily duties over there, so apologies if there's a little bit of noise in the background there. Yeah, the propeller is in-flight adjustable, and over the standard propeller you probably get about an extra 5 or 6 knots on the cruise speed and a little bit more economy, but of course to put against that you have to consider the additional cost of the propeller. The flying performance of the SportStar is pretty good really. You might think from the look of it that it's just a cruising aircraft, but in fact it has a very good short field performance and will outperform certainly any GA aircraft by a long way, and many so-called short field performance ultralights or recreational aircraft. The aircraft will get off the ground typically with 2 people in it well under 100 meters, and with 1 person a good deal less than that. A reasonable cruise speed for the aircraft with the standard propeller is around about 95 to 100 knots. With the aircraft with a variable propeller like this one, about 105 is reasonable, with a fuel burn of somewhere between 16 and 18 litres an hour. The airframe of the SportStar is an all-metal airframe. It's built of anodized aluminium, so it's pretty corrosion proof to begin with, but this airframe is also etch primer corrosion proof, the green paint that you see in some parts of the inside of the aircraft. All the joints are mastic bonded and as well as riveted, and all the rivets are filled with mastic to ensure that there's absolutely no danger of electrolytic corrosion or any ingress of water. The airframe is about as corrosion proof as you're going to get. I like metal airframes because they're relatively easy to repair, and although you can't get the streamlined shapes that perhaps you can with composites, try talking to your insurance agent about the cost of insuring a carbon fibre aircraft, and perhaps you'll be persuaded like me that metal's a pretty durable product to build an aircraft from. The expected life of this aircraft, and this is based on figures from its GA version in Europe, is around about 9,000 hours before you then start having to look at the condition of the aircraft. At the present time, the GA aircraft, or the GA version of the SportStar, is just being increased to 12,000 flying hours. Now, to put that in context, the average recreational pilot in Australia will fly somewhere around 50 to 100 hours a year, so you've got a pretty good lifetime in the aircraft. Even a school aircraft, you wouldn't really expect it to do much more than about 500 hours a year, perhaps 600, which gives you a pretty good lifetime on an aircraft like this of around 20 years, something like that. The lifetime can be extended on that, basically, as long as you inspect the aircraft and ensure that it's still in good condition. The people who buy this aircraft have been very varied, actually. I've found that we've got a number of younger customers, and by younger I mean certainly under 40 and maybe considerably less than that. We've also got a couple of flying schools who are using them, as well as what I would call your more typical recreational aircraft buyer, who is perhaps an ex-GA pilot who's been concerned about the cost of their GA aircraft, or perhaps are worried about their next medical. You can fly an ultralight or a recreational aircraft like this on your driving license or on a doctor's certificate to say you're fit to drive. The flying characteristics of the SportStar are superb. It's an excellent school aircraft. It's got full dual controls, double sticks so that the pilot and co-pilot have both got control, dual brakes, center throttle and so on. It's very GA based in its thinking. The handling of the aircraft is, well, to summarize it, I would say it's crisp and nimble. Some GA pilots may take a little while, maybe an hour or two at the most, to get used to the flying characteristics, because it handles like a little fighter, in the words of one European journalist. It's very easy to take off, very easy to land, and cruises very comfortably and stably. The SportStar is fitted with split flaps, which are a very simple, inexpensive and relatively light way of putting flaps on an aircraft. In fact, they're very similar to a Spitfire from World War II, or more recently the Roulettes aircraft have a similar flap mechanism. Apart from the benefits of simplicity and lightness, they create a good amount of drag. The stall on this aircraft with the flap down is around about 34 to 35 knots depending on your weight. With the full flap setting here at 50 degrees, it's a bit like a big drag brake, and you can descend very steeply, which gives you good terrain and good obstacle clearance for this aircraft. The fuel capacity in the aircraft, the fuel is kept in a tank here below the seats. In this aircraft is 65 litres. You can use avgas or premium unleaded fuel in the Rotax engine. It doesn't matter which, as long as you service the aircraft correctly. Early in the new year, we're expecting to increase the fuel capacity from the 65 litres we have here to 2 wing tanks totaling 110 litres, which will give the aircraft a little bit more range. It will also increase the baggage capacity here, because the fuel tank won't be occupying half of the baggage space. As you can see and probably hear, there's a little bit of wind that we have around here today, and I'd like to just reassure people about the strength of the canopy as far as the SportStar is concerned. In a wind, it's not a problem. You can leave it open. It's got huge hinge bolts in the canopy, as well as gas struts to hold it open. And apart from parking the aircraft directly facing downwind, in which case it will act more like a sail and trundle your aircraft away if you don't shock it, there's absolutely no problem with the strength of the canopy. This company has manufactured over 500 of these aircraft, and there isn't a single recorded incidence of any damage to a canopy due to wind. Let me sum up the SportStar for you. First of all, it's extremely well made. I might even stick my neck out and say it's one of the best made aircraft that you can buy on the market today. The room inside, the view out of it is phenomenal, and the icing on the cake is the performance. It's a fantastic performer. I flew one of these aircraft from Brisbane to Perth and back again, and I didn't have a single ache or pain at the end of it all. It was really absolutely phenomenal. Cap that off with a 2-year, 200 flying hour warranty, and I don't think you can go far wrong with the SportStar. Come and test fly one, and I think, like everyone else that flies it, you'll find you're delighted.